Hello class, this is chapter 1, estimation. Today we are going to be learning how to estimate. Most of the time we'll be using decimals, and we will be talking about and learning about 3 different strategies. The first strategy we're going to deal with is rounding, and in all honesty I think it's most people's favorite strategy. And that's good because it does work very well for sums, which means we add, differences when we subtract, and products when we multiply. The basic strategy says round each number to the nearest whole number. Now that's of course given the fact that you're working with decimals. And we're going to be working with decimals throughout this lesson. We look at example A. Remember that the whole number means the ones place, which is the 3. That means we look at the place to the right, which is the tenths place, and that's a 2. Since it is less than 5, I'm going to stay at a 3. I hope you remember the rule that if it's about rounding, that it has to be 5 or more, and then you go up. If it's less than 5, you stay the same. We're going to be subtracting ones place, tenths, that's an 8, so that means it's going to go to 1, and my difference will, an estimated difference will be 2. At this point you can hit pause and you try example B. Okay, 1.75 should be at a 2, and 0.92 should be a 1. When I subtract, I get a 1. If you'd like to try these next 2 by yourself, hit pause and do them, and then I'll show you how they're done. 10.13 is going to be 10. I have to be careful here because the sign says to add, and 1.46 is a 1. So my estimated sum will be 11. In 4.9, that's going to be a 5, and 12.2 is going to be a 2. 5 times 12 is 60. Example E is a story problem. It's based on the fact that you recall that to find the area, since most rooms are shaped like rectangles, the area would be found by multiplying the 2 dimensions, length and width. So we are going to be taking 10.5 times 9.25. 10.5 is going to be 11. The 9.25 is going to be 9. So my estimated area is going to be 99, and area is in square feet. Our next strategy is compatible numbers. Compatible numbers is used for quotients, in other words, when we divide. We are going to change both numbers to reasonably close numbers, so the division is mental math or pretty simple paper pencil math. And it's very important, which is why I have 3 asterisks, that you remember to start with the divisor. We're going to start with my 7.95. And again, just like with rounding, we're going to round to the nearest whole number here. So that's going to be an 8. Now, we need to change this 50.25 to a multiple of 8 that is going to be very quickly and easily divided by that 8. So if I really think of all my multiples of 8, 1 times 8 is 8, 2 times 8 is 16, 3 times 8 is 24, 4 times 8 is 32, 5 times 8 is 40, 6 times 8 is 48, and 7 times 8 is 56. Now 50.25 falls between those 2 numbers, 48 and 56. It's closer to the 48 than it is to the 56. So I would recommend rounding this or changing it to the compatible number of 48. Now I can do the division and I will have a 6. Again, you're very welcome to hit pause at this point. I would advise you to do so and try B and C. Again, remember we start with the divisor. Now I need to think of a multiple of 5 that's very close to 19.45, and I hope 20 just absolutely popped into your head. And 20 divided by 5 is going to be 4. Where do we start? With that 7.62, and that's going to be an 8. Now we got to think of all our multiples of 8. 8, 16, 24, 32. Well, 31.8 is between the 24 and the 32, but it's closest to 32, so my best estimate will be 4. The last method is a little bit trickier. It's a little harder for some people to wrap their brain around, so stick with me. It's called the front end and adjust. We're going to add the front numbers. In other words, the numbers that are farthest to your left. In this case, we are going to add the 5 and the 1 and the 2. That's going to be 8. Now we need to estimate the sum of what the lesser numbers are going to be. When I look at this 95, I see that that's really close to $1. Now to me, 39 is really close to 40. 49 is pretty close to 50. And 40 and 50 make 90. So these two numbers together are very close to $1. That's $2. So my estimate ends up being $10. Let's look at example B. Again, I front end, I add my 5 and my 2, and I get 7. I'm going to adjust by looking at my 43 and 67. Well, 43 and 67 are really close to 40 and 60, which together means that these two make 1. So my estimate here is going to be 8. Let's look at an example of what happens if we know the price of objects, like tacos, juice, and yogurt. Again, the front end means I'm only going to deal with the numbers that are farthest to my left, which means my 3 plus 1 is 4. Now, I can maneuver numbers around if you remember the idea that you can kind of use commutativity when you add and you can move numbers around. When I look at this particular grouping of numbers, I see that this 79 and this 39 together make about $1. This 89 is also going to be about $1. That wasn't supposed to happen. Sorry about that. Now that means $2. So my estimated price for buying the taco, the juice, and the yogurt is going to be about $6. D gives us a different twist on everything. You'll notice that here, my place value farthest to my left is tens. That 3 means 3 tens. Remember, this is the tens place. So 3 tens make 30. 1 10 makes another 10. And 30 plus 10 is 40. So here, I'm going to have 40. My lesser numbers here are 4 1/4 roughly and $6.05. At best, that 4 plus 6 is going to give me 10. So my best estimate here is going to be 50. And that concludes lesson 1-1. Catch you next time.